Hello, you're tuning in to Nightline, and this is Raymond Go. News making the headlines. 107.7 billion ringgit mini budget approved. And flood situation worsens, over 70,000 evacuees in 5 states. Good morning. The Dewan Rakyat on Tuesday passed the Consolidated Fund Expenditure into Account Bill 2022, or mini budget, that provides for 107.72 billion ringgit in civil service expenditure for part of 2023. Dewan Rakyat Speaker Datuk Johari Abdul made the announcement after the bill received majority support in the House. The mini-budget was tabled by Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, who's also Finance Minister, to facilitate provisions for government expenditure next year, given that the 2023 budget has yet to be approved.
Anggaran perbelanjaan di bawah undang-undang ini merangkumi bayaran gaji kepada penjawat awam, utiliti, beasiswa, bantuan kebajikan, serta perkhidmatan pendidikan dan kesihatan. Begitu juga projek-projek pembangunan yang sedang berjalan perlu diteruskan dan kontrak dibayar mengikut jadual.
He added that the mini-budget will take effect from January 1st, 2023, until the date the 2023 supply bill becomes law and comes into operation. Datuk Sri Anwar also said that the full 2023 budget will be tabled in February next year. The Treasury General Services would receive the highest allocation under the mini-budget, with 28.1 billion ringgit. This is followed by the Education Ministry with 24.9 billion ringgit and Health Ministry with 17 billion ringgit. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim said the government has agreed to continue several of the aid initiatives announced in the previous 2023 budget, and in doing so will increase the amount and make the payment at an earlier date. This included the payment for the Phase 1 of the People's Cash Aid, which will be made beginning in January instead of March next year.
Jadi fasa ini akan memanfaatkan 9 juta penerima dengan peruntukan 2 bilion ringgit. 300 ringgit bagi setiap isi rumah dan 100 ringgit bagi yang masih bujang.
Datuk Sri Anwar added that the government will also continue giving the early schooling aid of 150 ringgit to all pupils this January, regardless of their parents' income limit. In addition to this, the social welfare assistance to poor households, the elderly and the disabled will also be continued. Datuk Sri Anwar also revealed that the government had agreed not to increase electricity tariffs for all domestic consumers, as well as micro, small and medium entrepreneurs. Following this, he said the government would bear a subsidy of 10 billion ringgit in the first 6 months of 2023. Datuk Sri Anwar said to ensure the welfare of rubber smallholders during the monsoon season, the government plans to channel an additional assistance of 200 ringgit to the group this January. In another development, the Prime Minister said the government will import between 2 and 10 million chicken eggs daily from India starting Thursday to meet local demand until the egg supply in the country stabilizes. Malaysia's gross domestic product GDP growth for this year is very likely to exceed the earlier projection of between 6.5% and 7%. Datuk Sri Anwar noted that the unemployment rate also dropped to 3.6% in October 2022.
Saya mewakili satu pandangan ekonomi yang tidak sangat terpukau dengan angka. Kalau kita sebut kadar pengangguran 36%, bunyinya baik, tetapi bagi ratusan ribu yang menganggur itu tidak sebaik yang kita sebutkan di sini. Sebab itu ada langkah-langkah yang diambil untuk mencari jalan mengurangkan beban kerajaan.
The Prime Minister, who's also the Finance Minister, added that the entanglement of geopolitical conflicts has led to global inflationary pressures and weakened economic growth, and a surge in commodity and food prices had adversely impacted Malaysians in terms of cost of living. The International Monetary Fund also has forecasted global economic growth would slow from 3.2% in 2022 to 2.7% in 2023. Datuk Sri Anwar also said that to deal with this significant global impact, the government is adopting a whole-of-nation principle, and all quarters should join the government in formulating a comprehensive approach. The government will expedite flood relief assistance to the affected victims, especially in the East Coast states, through the National Disaster Management Agency, NADMA. Dr. Sri Anwar said the government will examine plans to increase allocations for the management of disasters following the flood situation that was seen to be more severe than expected. The Prime Minister is also scheduled to visit Kelantan on Wednesday to see for himself the flood situation in the state.
NADMA yang mengendali penyelaras isu banjir ini dan juga bencana telah disalur RM400 untuk persiapan awal, RM400 juta untuk persiapan awal, dan seperti mana saya sebut tadi, saya telah berbincang dengan Pegawai Kementerian Kewangan minggu lalu dan pagi tadi untuk mencari jalan menambah kerana dari laporan awal yang saya terima pagi tadi, keadaan banjir itu jauh lebih buruk atau parah daripada jangkaan awal.
Dr. Sri Anwar added that various government agencies are already on standby with their machinery to help the people. Last year's floods, considered the country's worst in decades, saw dozens of casualties while over 60,000 people were displaced, with losses reaching an estimated 6.1 billion ringgit. Meanwhile, Dr. Sri Anwar told the Dewan Rakyat that the government can save up to 2 billion ringgit following the re-evaluation of several flood mitigation projects. He said out of 39 flood mitigation projects applied by the Environment and Water Ministry, 28 were awarded through direct tenders. This amounted to about 14 billion ringgit, or more than 90% of the entire allocation. The flood situation has worsened on the East Coast, with over 70,000 people evacuated to flood relief centres in Terengganu and Kelantan on Tuesday night. As of 10 p.m, both states continue to record increased number of evacuees, while the number of victims has dropped in Johor and Pahang, but remains unchanged in Perak. Currently, there is a total of 72,449 evacuees placed at temporary relief centres in the 5 states affected by floods. According to the Terengganu Disaster Management Committee Secretariat, the number of victims in the state rose to 40,689 people from 39,311 earlier in the evening. All of them are being housed in 313 relief centres in 8 districts, namely in Besut, Kemaman, Hulu Terengganu, Setiu, Dungun, Kuala Terengganu, Kuala Nerus and Marang. In Kelantan, the number of victims increased to 31,437, with 138 relief centres opened in the districts of Kota Baru, Pasir Mas, Bachok, Tanah Merah, Pasir Putih, Kuala Krai, Machang and Jeli. As for Pahang, the number of evacuees decreased to 221 people, with only 3 relief centres still opened in Kuantan. In Johor, the State Disaster Management Committee said the number of evacuees has decreased to 48 people, and all of them are being housed at 2 relief centres in Segamat. Over in Perak, a total of 54 evacuees are placed at 2 relief centres, each in Bagan Datuk and Hilir, Perak. Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah has decreed that all flood victims must adhere to instructions from authorities if told to evacuate to temporary relief centres, PPS. The king also reminded the people residing on the east coast of the peninsula to stay vigilant during the current bad weather conditions and not allow their children to play or go near flood waters.
Negeri Pahang, negeri Terengganu, negeri Kelantan lah ketika ini, dan harap harus berwaspada dengan keadaan musim terkejut ini dan dengarlah arahan-arahan pihak kerajaan ya, supaya dipindah ataupun tinggal di PPS di kawasan-kawasan tertentu.
Al-Sultan Abdullah also hoped that cleanliness is given priority at all relief centres and advised the flood victims to be patient with the challenges that they are facing. His Majesty said this when visiting flood evacuees at Sekolah Kebangsaan Beserah, Kuantan on Tuesday. The King also handed out contributions to the affected victims at the PPS. Pahang Regent Tengku Hassanal Ibrahim Alam Shah was also present. Police have recorded statements from 53 individuals in their investigation into the landslide that hit the father's organic farm campsite, Gotong Jaya, near Batang Kali last Friday. Selangor Police Chief Dato' R. Junaidi Muhammad said apart from the operator of the campsite and 2 of his employees, authorities had also recorded statements from the survivors and their families, and more individuals will be called up to give their statements to facilitate the probe, which is being investigated under the Penal Code and the Local Government Act. Dato' R. Junaidi added that police had also set up a special team that was mobilized to Sungai Buloh Hospital to help channel information related to the tragedy to the victims' families. In the incident at about 2:42 a.m., a landslide measuring nearly 300 meters long and 70 meters high hit the campsite located along Jalan Genting, Batang Kali. The incident has so far claimed 24 lives, with 9 victims still missing, while 61 of the 94 victims were rescued. Meanwhile, day 5 of the search and rescue SAR operation has led to the discovery of debris believed to be blankets, containers and camping tools belonging to the landslide victims. Hulu Selangor Police Chief Superintendent Sufyan Abdullah, however, said that there have been no leads of the 9 missing victims.
Fokus pencarian kita ialah di zon C. Zon C iaitu di zon River View. So setakat ini memang kita telah pun tim-tim penyelamat kita telah berusaha dengan bersungguh-sungguh. Namun tidak ada satu perkembangan yang positif.
A total of 115 officers and personnel have been deployed to the site of the landslide to carry out the SAR operation. The SAR team will continue to focus in Zone C and will resume the search at 8 a.m. on Wednesday. Meanwhile, it will be a year before Jalan Batang Kali Genting in Hulu Selangor, which was hit by a deadly landslide last Friday, can be reopened to the public. Works Ministry Secretary General Dr. Wan Ahmad Uzair Wan Sulaiman said the time is needed to facilitate repairs on the affected slopes and roads. According to Dr. Wan Ahmad Uzair, the ministry will conduct an in-depth study on the slope management at the site once the ongoing search and rescue efforts have concluded. He added, in the meantime, road users will be asked to use alternative routes, which will be announced by the Public Works Department, PWD. He also said that the incident was not necessarily caused by road works in the area and that natural causes may have been responsible as underground flow of water was detected. The ministry is also in the process of identifying 1,045 slopes along federal roads in the peninsula which are at high risk of collapse, and no developments are allowed in these red zone areas. A renowned center for East meets West cultural exchange, Hong Kong continues to host art exhibitions with international appeal. Industry experts weigh in on the latest of these events.
So we would like to make art in Hong Kong an ongoing experience and for our visitors. So anytime they come, there'll be museums, there'll be a lot of things that they could appreciate. They can go to shows and performances. So the whole art and cultural scene is becoming more and more vibrant in Hong Kong. In the last 2 years, we have now got the West Kowloon Cultural District and having 2 new big museums just opened within a year.
Well, the West Kowloon Cultural District project is the Hong Kong SAR government's most important and strategic investment in cultural infrastructure, being able to curate exhibitions that are grounded in Hong Kong but with a global perspective, but also able to tell the engaging stories of Chinese arts and culture. So that makes Hong Kong really unique, and also West Kowloon as well.
Because M+ is Asia's first global museum of visual culture, we really thought about who is the artist or maker that really represents the connection between Asia and the rest of the world. And Kusama was on top of the list.
This exhibition features one of the world's most important private art collections. That is the Liechtenstein Princely Collection. This collection was assembled by the successive princes of Liechtenstein. Many works of art in this exhibition tell story between China and its exchanges in art, culture, and architecture.
We're just coming out of the pandemic. Hong Kong is opening up. Kusama really exemplified and represented this idea that art has a great power to heal, connect. And that message couldn't be more appropriate in the current time and in Hong Kong at the moment.
More found dead as Thai Navy continues search for missing sailors. News from the Foreign Front when Nightline returns.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Saya Anwar bin Ibrahim.
Announce to you the death of my beloved mother, the Queen.
We're back with news from the Foreign Front now. 4 bodies were recovered in the Gulf of Thailand on Tuesday following the sinking of a naval vessel 2 days ago. More than 70 survivors from the HTMS Sukhothai have been hauled from the sea since the vessel went down late Sunday, roughly 37 kilometers off Thailand's southeastern coast. Rescuers in helicopters, 2 planes and 4 vessels were scanning the turbulent waters for more than 20 sailors still missing. Efforts to find the missing crew were focused on aerial searches, with the Royal Thai Air Force assisting the operation, which has been affected by strong winds. The HTMS Sukhothai, a corvette, the smallest type of military warship, is believed to have run into trouble after its electronic system was damaged. In another development, lawmakers investigating last year's assault on the U.S. Capitol recommended Monday that Donald Trump be charged with multiple offenses, including insurrection, raising the stakes in a parallel criminal investigation that could put the former president in jail. The House of Representatives Select Committee called for the indictment, as well as charges of obstruction of an official proceeding and conspiracy to defraud the United States after an 18-month probe into the storming of Congress. The bipartisan committee voted unanimously to refer the charges to the Justice Department after opening remarks by Vice Chair Liz Cheney, in which she accused Trump of a clear dereliction of duty in failing to immediately attempt to stop the riot and called him unfit for any office. In the incident on January 6, 2021, at least 5 people died after a mob whipped up by Trump's false claims of a stolen election and directed to march on Congress by the defeated president ransacked the seat of U.S. democracy in a thwarted bid to prevent the transfer of power to President Joe Biden. Argentina return home to Heroes Welcome. Sports when we come back. Football, the 2022 World Cup. Thousands of fans lined up in the middle of the night to try to get a glimpse of the Argentina football team that won one of the greatest finals of all time ahead of what is scheduled to be a day of celebrations in Buenos Aires. Members of the team, led by skipper Lionel Messi, were all smiles as they descended from the plane in Ezeiza, right outside Argentina's capital, shortly before 3 a.m. local time Tuesday, onto a red carpet that had been rolled out for the squad. The newly crowned champions of the world boarded an open-top bus from airport to the Argentine Football Association, where the players were welcomed with fireworks. They will sleep at the AFA headquarters for a few hours before boarding the bus later Tuesday to the obelisk, the iconic Buenos Aires landmark that was a sea of people Sunday afternoon after the team won the country's 3rd World Cup and its first since 1986. President Alberto Fernandez declared a national holiday Tuesday so the country could celebrate the victory. Moving on to basketball, the NBA. Chris Paul scored a season-high 28 points, while DeAndre Ayton added 21 points as the Phoenix Suns rolled past the Los Angeles Lakers 130-104. The game was almost more notable for who was not playing instead of the action on the court. The Lakers were missing their all-star trio of LeBron James, Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook, while the Suns were missing 6 players, including 3-time All-Star Devin Booker, who scored a season-high 58 points in Saturday's win over the Pelicans. Paul had his best scoring game of the season in Booker's absence, shooting 9 out of 18 from the field, including 3 of 5 from three-point range. The 12-time All-Star had a slow start to the year, coming into the game averaging a career low of 11.1 points per game, but he has been more productive over the past few weeks since returning from a heel injury. The Suns have now won 3 straight games, bouncing back after dropping 5 in a row. After this breather, prison drug record exposed, civil servant among 6 nabbed. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Johor police arrested 6 individuals, including a civil servant, for allegedly trafficking drugs in lockup during a 4-day raid around Johor Bahru last Sunday. State Police Chief Datuk Kamarul Zaman Mamat said police discovered the activities after they conducted checks on an accused person who had completed his trial at about 10:30 a.m. on December 15th. Datuk Kamarul Zaman added that police found 9 compressed wrapped tubes filled with drugs hidden in his underwear, and it was believed that the man also swallowed some of the tubes while inside the court complex.
Orang kena tuduh tersebut telah menelan dadah, dan setakat ini kita dah tahan dia dan pergi hantar ke hospital. Dia di hospital, setakat ini dah 6 ketul dadah dapat dikeluarkan.
Following the arrest, police carried out 5 raids around Johor Bahru, leading to the arrest of 6 local suspects, including 3 women and a civil servant, all aged between 25 and 37. Urine tests revealed 2 of the suspects were positive for methamphetamine, while checks found 3 of them have previous records related to drugs. Authorities also seized 44.7 grams of ganja worth 2,237 ringgit and shabu weighing 28.8 grams worth 2,884 ringgit, as well as 3,800 ringgit in cash. All the suspects have been remanded until Wednesday for further investigation under the Dangerous Drugs Act. In Kedah, 3 teenage boys were killed while 2 of their friends were injured after the car they were travelling in skidded and hit a road divider at Jalan Alostar Butterworth in Sungai Petani on Tuesday. Kuala Muda District Police Chief Assistant Commissioner Zaidi Cik Hassan said the victims were heading to Padang Temusu from Bakar Arang when their vehicle went out of control in the 2:30 a.m. incident. The 17-year-old driver and two other passengers aged 15 and 17 died at the scene due to severe head injuries. Another 17-year-old passenger suffered serious injuries and is being treated at Sultan Abdul Halim Hospital, while another passenger aged 15 only suffered light injuries. The bodies of the three victims were also sent to the same hospital for post-mortem. Initial investigation found that all the victims were no longer schooling and the driver did not possess a driving license and the car belonged to his brother. The case is being investigated under the Road Transport Act. As we wrap up Nightline this time around, let's take a look as Nigerian artist Eugene Konboye hunts for plastic flip-flops before turning it into multicolored mosaic portraits of his community. With that, I'm Raymond. Thank you for watching and stay safe.